We're ready to go? Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, the Yankees suffered their first big blow, losing Giancarlo Stanton for 4 to 6 weeks. So, kind of get into that injury. There's things you could rely on, such as, death, taxes, and a Giancarlo Stanton injury. And, of course, came very early for the Yankees, so we'll get into all that. But there is some good news we'll highlight, such as the great start by Garrett Cole as he got off. But also, we are waiting on some Yankees, some injuries coming back. So, kind of get you caught up with all that stuff. But before we start, if you haven't done it yet, make sure you subscribe to the audio version podcast of the show. So, I know you like watching me. I like watching me. I like watching me many times. I go back on YouTube and watch my videos over and over. But there is an audio version podcast of this show. So wherever you get your favorite podcasts, go to look it up, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, and get a little wrap-up report. So after every series, kind of do a little wrap-up what happened in those 3 or 4 games, and give a little sidebars, little stories, little Yankee history, a lot of great stuff. But it's exclusive for you podcast subscribers. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast. So I mentioned before, the big man goes down, Giancarlo Stanton. Now, it was in the Saturday game against the Minnesota Twins, and it was kind of kind of funny for different reasons. It was that double, that line drive double hit off the wall. Michael Kay thought it was a home run, so he kind of caught some grief for that. So, as much as they want to criticize John Sterling, does that a lot. Sometimes it's not just age, sometimes it's the angle of the ball. And we're kind of used to Giancarlo Stanton hitting those line drive type home runs. So as soon as it goes to the wall, you figure it's just going to go over, but it'll hit off the wall. But of course, since it wasn't a home run, he probably had to hustle a little bit. And as he did, he felt like his hamstring grabbed him, the back of his, whatever, like he got grabbed like a muscle strain like that. So Stanton ended up taking himself out of the game. Now, I'm not going to say anything about Stanton in terms of a character issue, but could you imagine Derek Jeter taking himself out of a game? And again, the only time Jeter came out of the game was literally his foot came off his ankle. That's what he had to do to get Jeter out of the game. Stanton's like, oh, I got a little Charlie horse. I got to pull myself out of the game, but I'm not going to criticize Stanton. So obviously, after the game, now initially they put him on the 10-day IL. Figure that as well as a typical Stanton little injury, he'll be back. But they take him to MRI. It turns out it's a grade 2 strain, so they're requiring he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. But of course, anytime they give you that, it's more than that. So wouldn't be shocked now. Stanton's out for 2 months. You probably don't see him back till June if everything goes well. And it's kind of a shame because he got off to a decent start for the Yankees. At the time, was hitting .269 with 4 home runs, 3 doubles, 11 RBIs. So he was productive for the Yankees early on, and playing a little bit outfield, not too much. Now, do you think playing the outfield maybe contributed to that in some way? I don't think so. I just think, again, he probably thought, I really hit this one good. Wait, it's not going to the wall. It's going to be a double. Now I got to hustle. I think maybe just that last second of him going into home run trot mode and then breaking out into running fast probably pulled something on him, and that's probably what caused the injury. So he's going to be out again. At best, you're probably looking at 2 months, and it's kind of a shame in a way just because he was productive, and last season Judge was healthy the whole way, but we didn't really have Stanton really for the second half, and it would have been nice to have both Judge and Stanton really teeing off as they kind of were early part of the season, but now you're not going to have that, so he'll be gone for a while. So to make up for that, they brought up Peraza for the roster spot. Now, Peraza might just be a bit of a holdover because he's kind of the holdover until Donaldson comes back. Donaldson is trying to rehabbing it, but he's having a little bit setback, so Donaldson might not be as back as we think. So, again, that would be good news, at least for Peraza or people out there who are just sick and tired of Donaldson and just don't want to see him, no hurry to see Donaldson back, though. A lot of people would rather see Peraza in there. So, in that way, it all works out. And for the Yankees, obviously it's not good, but could be a blessing in disguise because at least, usually with Stanton, you're going to DH him, so it does open up the DH spot. You give Judge maybe a breather a little bit, keep his legs out of the outfield a little bit, as well as someone like DJ LeMahieu, who's been all right. But of course, the Yankees are a little log jammed just with the multiple number of infielders, especially now we have Peraza up. You feel comfortable with DJ, whether he's playing second base, whether he's playing third base or first base. But, DJ, again, he's coming back from that little fractured foot injury from last season. So having an open DH spot for him to get some at-bats in there, where you can keep DJ's bat in there, but keep the pressure off his feet, that's also good news. So blessing in disguise there. And of course, it could open up an opportunity for someone like Aaron Hicks, who, again, we'll get into that a little bit later in the episode, struggling mightily. But again, if this opens the DH spot, maybe he could get more consistent at-bats and maybe helps him finally get going this season because he's off to a really rough start. And it's hard with him because you have a struggling player. You really can't give him too many opportunities to right himself just because if you have other players hitting well, you're not going to put someone like Hicks in there if other players are doing well. So it kind of hurts Hicks. It hinders him from getting on a roll. But if there's an open DH spot, then maybe gets Hicks some more at-bats and maybe he can finally get it going this season. Other than that. But again, for the Yankees, going to be without Giancarlo Stanton a little bit for a while. And again, we've been seeing this with this guy ever since he's pretty much been here as a Yankee. Again, I don't think he's a Jacoby Ellsbury type, but it just seems he's always having these injuries. Again, it's always lower body type injuries. And I don't know, is he jaking it a little bit? Is he being overcautious a little bit? I don't know. Just going back to something like a Derek Jeter. I can just never remember Jeter taking himself out of a game like that. Maybe it happened once. I can't remember it. So maybe it's something about this guy where he might be a little overcautious for his own good and versus just toughing it out a little bit. I don't know. But again, like I said at the top, you could always rely on a Giancarlo Stanton long-term IL visit, and it's already coming out this early part of the season. So I understand you might be a little depressed over Stanton, so I figured let me hit you with some good news. And of course, the good news and probably the best news for the Yankees so far has been the tremendous start of the season for Garrett Cole. First 4 starts, 4-0 with a microscopic ERA of 0.95. Off to a tremendous start. 28.1 innings, 32 strikeouts, only 13 hits, only 8 walks, and only 3 earned runs again through those first 4 games. But what was most important is that so far 0 home runs through the first 4 starts of the season, which is very crucial. You remember last season with him giving up a lot of home runs. With Cole, just kind of a bizarre season. Just a lot of innings where he'd be going fine, and suddenly he'll just give 4 or 5 runs and or surrender 3 home runs in a row. It was kind of a weird season for Cole, and for Cole last season did give up 33 home runs. So again, that's what really would bid him last season. Would probably cost him the American League Cy Young Award because he did bounce back a little bit and have was a little better later on in the season. But he had that kind of little part in the middle of the season, but Miranding a little bit. Of course. They said, well, maybe because he wasn't using the substance anymore and he couldn't get the same spin rate and it seemed like he was struggling a little bit. But if you've just seen Cole, the first 4 starts of the season, obviously that's all in the rearview mirror. He just looks fantastic to start the season, so hopefully he can keep this up. And again, he was like this the entire spring training and, of course, these first 4 starts, so it's not a fluke. So it just seems like Cole, as long as he can stay healthy, which, it seems like he does, he's off to really on a journey to have a special season. Maybe he could finally first get that Cy Young Award in a Yankee uniform, which would be great to see for him. And if you want to look at some of the stats, recently he passed and surpassed the chairman of the board, Whitey Ford, in strikeouts, as well as tied the all-time Yankee strikeout leader in Ron Guidry. And of course, he's just going to blow through that very quickly. So just amazing to see how he racks up. And he hasn't really been there this long. This is kind of like his 4th season, if you think about it. So 2020, 21, 22, 23. Okay, 3rd, but nevertheless, only been here for really almost like a cup of coffee, and he's already the all-time Yankee strikeout leader. So it's just kind of incredible. And if you want to look at Cole, again, very durable since 2020. No American League pitcher has thrown more innings than him, so he has been durable. So it's just that's just one of those sightings where it was just great for the Yankees. You always complain. Yankees give contracts, especially Cashman. They complain some of the contracts they give up to starting pitchers, like Rondon maybe. It hasn't been the greatest. But Cole, that's just like a signing. Even though the Yankees greatly overpaid for him, that's just worth it. There's certain guys at certain times that is worth it. Cole was worth it when they got him before just before the 2020 season. Of course, when COVID happened, and of course going back to 2009 when they signed CC, it was like. Some certain players at certain times is great. I would even throw that back to Musina when they got Musina back in 2001. Just great pitches at great times. He may be overpaid a little bit, but they're paying off. And Garrett Cole's paying off again as long as he stays healthy. Looks like he's on his way to a spectacular, maybe even a Cy Young type of season. And what this tremendous start by Cole for the start of the season has done is kind of masked up the absence of both Luis Severino and Carlos Rondon. Now, Rondon had a little bit of setbacks. Again, he had the forearm issue, but now they're saying his back has been balking him on him a little bit. So looks like he's going to be a little bit longer to get back and finally start his season for the Yankees. Severino at least throwing and working his way back. So of the two of them, you're probably going to see Severino first before you see Rondon. But again, this tremendous start by Cole has kind of masked up that part that the Yankees are missing, those 2 crucial pieces, as well as been the inconsistency and kind of the bad start of kind of the 2 guys in the back end filling in for them, mainly Domingo Germán and Clarke Schmidt. Now, Clarke Schmidt seems like really trying to find his way. Really haven't given a start yet we could really be impressed with, but it was good to see that Domingo Germán in that Saturday game against the Twins actually finding through probably his best game maybe over in the past 2 seasons against them. Going into the 7th inning, they're only surrendering 1 run. But what you look at is the 11 strikeouts. Very impressive. In fact, in that game, he came out and struck out the first 3 batters he faced. And it wasn't like he was just blowing the ball by him. It was what you expect with Germán when he's going with the curveball as well as the changeup. Probably his changeup is his best pitch, getting a lot of swing and misses. Now, I guess you're wondering, wow, he's really throwing well. What's different with him? Well, it turns out in that game, in case you didn't catch it, as he was coming off in the third, of course, after every pitcher comes off the mound, the umpire checks him. Now that's the new rule since last season. Well, they said that his hand was a little sticky. Now this is it wasn't really from any substance that's illegal. It's kind of from, of course, pitchers use the rosin to kind of get the grip, and sometimes they wet it up a little bit just to get a grip. Again, it's kind of one of those things like it's technically not supposed to do it, but they kind of let you do it because it's not really considered a foreign substance. Now, the umpire at the time didn't think it was anything that was over, that's worth, throw him out of the game for. So the umpire basically told him, hey, go wash your hands. So between innings, Hamon washed his hands. He came out and again supposedly maybe had a little bit left on his pinky. Again, not an amount where you could say this is any sort of abuse or illegal activity. Now, opposing a manager for the Twins, Rocco Baldelli, you might remember the former Devil way back in the day. He's now a manager. He protested the idea that Hamon was even allowed to continue in this game. So he kind of just like, it wasn't one of those situations where he almost like, hey, umpire, just throw me out because I can't really. I got to protest this game somehow, so just throw me out. So umpire's, all right, fine, I'll throw you out. So it was one of those kind of things where you don't have to like drop 20 F-bombs to get thrown out of the game. So Rocco Baldelli had himself taken out of the game just to protest that, and Hamon was able to continue along. Again, he threw a good game there. So that was just, good to see for the Yankees because he had a couple of games where like he got a decent start, then he got beat up a little bit, so kind of up and down a little bit. And again, you're going to depend on Hamon because, again, we're not too sure. I mean, Severino's coming back, but we don't have an exact timetable just yet. And now this Carlos Rondon injury looks like something that's just going to linger on a little bit. Hope it's not a situation where we don't see him until June, but it's kind of shaping up that way. So if that's the case, need Hamon to go well there because I know Garrett Cole is getting off to a great start, but at some point, Cole's going to have a couple of clunkers here and there. So if someone like Hamon could kind of pick up the slack there. Nestor's been cool as cucumber. Nestor, so you don't worry about him. He's been fine throughout the start of the season. So you got Cole, Nestor good. But again, from there, a lot of question marks. Now, of course, we've seen Johnny Brito a little bit. His first couple of starts impressive. After that, now he got absolutely shellacked by the Twins in that first game there, but not going to be too concerned with him. I actually like Johnny Brito so far. He's very, obviously he's one of those guys where you don't expect much of him, but he attacks the strike zone, very aggressive, gets a lot of swing and misses. Again, even though he got destroyed in that Twins game, I'm okay with him moving forward. I'm actually more comfortable with Johnny Brito than right now the Clark Schmidt, who just, I don't know, he just seems like maybe he's not ready for this. I don't know. I like Schmidt. He got some good stuff. He worked on the cutter during spring training, and that had a lot of success for him. But this looks like he's more suitable to be a long reliever, or maybe just someone that comes in, in the 7th to 8th inning like that. It just seems like him as a starter right now is just not working. Of course, the Yankees is kind of forced to use him, and just until Severino and Rodon coming back though. But good to see Hamon finally throw a good game. Yankees have been waiting Hamon since like 2018 when he was an 18-game winner, and of course Hamon, past couple of 4 or 5 seasons, kind of been up and down a little bit. Of course, had some personal issues, the domestic, violence issue where he was suspended for like half a season or almost like 60, 80 games like that. And then he had like that weird car turned over in the Dominican Republic. Then he came up here and he's kind of had some injuries. So the Yankees kind of been looking for the Hamon to really start, really be the Hamon we wanted back in 2018. Maybe he's finally there. Again, he's only 30 years old, so, still time with him. He's a young guy, but, you can see the patience with him wearing thin with the Yankees. So if he can finally get on the good track, good for him and good for the Yankees. Now, in the last YouTube episode, I kind of got it when I made the visit to Yankee Stadium, discussing the whole Colton Brewer situation. Now, they started Estevan Florial. They put him on the Major League roster to start the season. And this seemed kind of weird because they really looked like there was going to be a long-term role for him, especially the fact that, yes, you still have Hicks here and you have still someone like Oswaldo Cabrera that you're going to mainly use in the outfield there. So what's Florial for? So you figure maybe a situation where the Yankees were going to showcase him a little bit, maybe put him out there to try to include him in a trade. Hey, look at this guy. Would you want him to include him in trades? There's some package sort of deal. Turned out, of course, as we discussed last time, he was kind of a placeholder for Colton Brewer, who the Yankees traded for from the Rays, brought him up here, and then once Colton Brewer came up here, they had to open up a roster spot, designated Florial for assignment to the chagrin of many, because a lot of Yankee fans kind of wanted to finally see him get a shot here up at the Major League level, but this wasn't going to be enough at bats at him, so it didn't really make sense there. So they put him on waivers. Now, as it turns out, nobody claimed him, so the other 28, 29 teams around baseball had no interest in him, so he was able to come back to the Yankees. So the Yankees got able to get Florial back, and then they put him on the AAA roster. And what goes around comes around. Colton Brewer, the same thing. In that first game against Minnesota, where the Yankees absolutely just got shellacked 11-2. Colton Brewer didn't do much better as well. Gave a couple of runs in it from that. I guess the Yankees said, we're going to do with this guy. So they also put him on waivers, and same thing. Nobody claimed him. So he actually came back to the Yankees, and the Yankees optioned him down to AAA, and to open up the roster spot, called up Greg Weissart, the local guy, from Fordham, pitched for Fordham. So he was able to join the Major League roster there. So Yankees right now in the bullpen, they've been holding down the fort pretty much, but You can see things starting to wane a little bit, probably trying to using King and Holmes a lot more than they really want to, using Holmes in situations where they don't want to, like in the 8th inning. I think, with closes, their mindset is 9th inning. When you put him earlier, early in the game, it kind of throws, for whatever reason, throws them out of whack, and usually you see poor results. So, but the Yankees are kind of forced in that situation right now. The bullpen a little thinned out a little bit because we're still waiting on Lou Trevino. He's coming, come back at some point. Probably looking at May for him. And of course, I'm sure with Loizaga out on the IL, dealing with some arm issues, and of course Tommy Canley, which I think that's a situation where maybe you don't even see this guy. Of course, had a little bicep tendonitis in the spring, so yeah, we're going to shut him down a little bit. And then to start the season, we're going to put him in the IL. Well, he got shifted to the 60-day injury reserve list, same with that bicep injury, which he had back when the Yankees had him back in 2018, 2019. So he's someone you were depending on, just kind of like you're excited about him. He was coming back. He liked being here, but unfortunately, the Yankees didn't retain him. He kind of bounced around baseball a little bit. He came back, but of course, it seems like but he's just going to be dealing with this injury where we're probably not going to get him back until maybe midway point of the season there. So Yankees a little short-handed there in the bullpen. And I remember last trade deadline, they made the trade for Scott Efros, who was good for a cup of coffee, and then he went down and needed Tom John surgery, and he's just totally out of the question for 2023 there. So Yankees searching a little bit for some answers in the bullpen. Again, they've been overall all right. Again, the formula for them when things are going well is you want to see Wandy Peralta, Michael King, and then Clay Holmes is closing out in the 9th. And when things are going well with the Yankees, that's the trio you'll see. And then hopefully, of all of them, you're probably going to see Loizaga go back first. And then Lou Trevino, he's not anything special like you're really waiting for. So, whatever. He comes back when he comes back. And Greg Weissart, again, he was the Yankees AAA closer last season. He came up. He was all right. The Yankees have put him in too many high leverage situations. I don't think they're going to force him. But at some point, and once, you get Severino Rondon back, someone like Clark Schmidt, I think he's very good, but he's someone I'd rather see him in the bullpen, and he'll be able to bolster the bullpen right there instead of kind of filagering a little bit as a starter. Now the Anthony Volpe jubilation that we started the season with the great opening day home at Yankee Stadium, got all the cheers and applause. He kind of might have been even the star of the show. Seems to be waned a little bit now. Hasn't really got off to the greatest of starts. You kind of wondering, is he ready for this? Can he handle the pressure? Did the Yankees jump the gun on him a little bit? A little too early to tell with that, but at least with 47 at-bats in, was only hitting 191, so under 200 with just his home run. So he finally got his first career home run out of the way. And of course, the John Sterling on that was not really the greatest. So he's going to have to work on that a little bit. I guess Volpe means fox in Italian. I don't know. It just didn't really work. Didn't jive well. It wasn't like a Giambino or a Bamtino kind of call or Burn Baby Burn. I mean, those are the classic Sterling ones. It seems like he's searching a little bit with the Volpe there and kind of really went out of the way. And I don't think it's really clicking. So he's probably going to have to go back to the drawing board on that one. But enough with Volpe. Only that. And so not really an impressive start. But what has been good with him has been the stolen bases, kind of an element he's added to this Yankee team, which, again, the Yankee franchise hasn't had in a while. Again, I'm not going to kill Volpe. And even if, look at the Minnesota Twins and Carlos Correa, who got a boatload of money, even though he didn't get as much as he could have with the whole ankle issue. I don't get into that again. But before he came into the Yankee series, was hitting under 200 and had 0 home runs. And, of course, once he faced the Yankees, then his bat lit up magically. But before that, he was a bit of a bust. So imagine if the Yankees would have spent that type of money on Carlos Correa and it was hitting under 200 with no home runs. I mean, Yankee fans would be flipping out. So that's kind of more or less what Volpe has been. I think he'll be okay, he'll be all right, not to put pressure on him. And like that, Boone's kind of, trying him different positions, has been trying, since he's been stealing bases and doing, been on the base pad there, leading him off a lot as well, just maybe see if he can get different pitches to hit. So, again, I think the Yankees are still going to okay with him kind of, being on the Major League roster right now. But again, not off to the greatest of start. But if you look at the Yankee team in general, have been sneaky fast this season. Currently just, through 16 games in, we're 8th in the major leagues with 17 stolen bases. So that's not something you remember with this Yankee team going back for the past, even back during the Torre years. I mean, there were really great base steals like that. It's just something that this Yankee franchise really wasn't adept to. A lot of it was this power and pitching, a lot of home runs, but not really being too good on the base pads there. But the Yankees this season have been a little bit different with the likes of Volpe, just bringing that extra element to the game that the Yankees have really been missing, as well as Gleyber Torres has been sneaky fast, as well as Aaron Judge, because we've seen him steal bases. So you could point to some different things. Likely, it's the fact that you got more of these younger guys up. That the Yankees really haven't gone with a younger type of roster. So usually had a lot of just clunky guys like a Luke Voigt or something like that, who just obviously not stealing bases. So that's a little different. Of course, now with the new rules with the pitcher engagement, how many times they can throw to first base, they kind of have to pick their poison when they want to to throw over, and I guess the Yankees right now have been good at reading all the pitches and stealing bases at the right time. So Volpe, not panic time like that. It doesn't seem like he's getting down, and I think the fans are going to give him a lot of slack. Obviously the fans are ready to excommunicate and send Aaron Hicks packing, which we'll get into next. But Volpe, the fans, he's a hometown guy. The fans, he's a guy from came up with the Yankee system. The fans aren't going to go heavy on him, even if he still continues to struggle a little bit. And I think at some point he'll finally break through a little bit more with the average there, and then finally he could be the prospect and the star the Yankees hope he's going to be. And, with the stolen bases, again, it's probably just with these new rules, and it kind of affected all teams and even affected the New York Yankees, which, at least through the first 16 games of the season, no Yankee catcher have thrown out any opposing runnings yet, which is kind of curious. Again, we saw last season, Trevino as well as Higgy are very good at doing that, but again, haven't had opportunity to do it this season. Again, likely has to do with both the pitch clock as well as just the limited amount of time to start a pitcher, any pitcher can throw over to first base there, and it kind of gives the runner a bit of an edge to steal at the right times, which makes it tough for the catcher. So I don't think it's a Yankee catcher issue. And again, I don't think Gleyber Torres all of a sudden is Ricky Henderson. I just think likely, again, the pitch clock as well as the limited amount of engagements a pitcher could throw over to first base there has benefited the running game, which, again, that's what baseball wanted. They wanted more action on the bases, and they got it. So I guess it's time we get into Mr. Aaron Hicks, who's again had a real terrible start to the season. I was hoping for good things. I thought this would kind of be a rejuvenated season for him, where not too much pressure on him. You could put him in the ninth hole, and he'll just kind of explode a little bit, kind of being the guy the Yankees had a couple of seasons ago when, again, he was a kind of a decent, 20-plus home run type of guy. Well, off to a terrible start in only 22 at-bats, just hitting 136, 0 home runs, just 3 hits, and 1 measly RBI, which he got during that Baltimore series down in Camden to kind of get the Yankee offense going. But nevertheless, it's been miserable for Hicks, and of course the fans have been getting on him. He has become the new Joey Gallo, who they're just going after. So I don't know how much is going to go long. Again, he's under contract for this season and next season. So, he's still making a lot of money where you can't just simply say, you know what, just stay home. But I could see that just getting to that point where, the Yankees have done that in the past with the likes of A-Rod. It's like, all right, we're paying you a lot of money, but you kind of can't play baseball anymore, so just go away, get off the team. Now, the Stanton injury, as mentioned at the top, does benefit him a little bit. It's going to open up some at-bats for him. So I'm rooting for him. I hope he could get on the roll a little bit. And again, he doesn't have to be a 300 hitter, but if you hit 250 and hit a home run once in a while, that's just good enough. But again, it's just going to be tough to put him out there because if he's not hitting, you don't want to waste at-bats on him, and you rather use those at-bats for someone like an Oswaldo Cabrera, who just has a little more life in his body and has a bright future in front of him, and you don't want to. You rather see him develop versus trying to give Hicks, someone ready in his early 30s, more shots where it just seems like it's just not there for him. So we'll see how far this goes. But, I think the Yankees, just because the money is going to pay for him, as well as the Stanton injury, they'll hold on for a little while. But by trade deadline, if really things don't improve, I think the Yankees is going to tell them just to stay home. Now, when you look back when the Yankees faced the Guardians in Cleveland there, you might have noticed the Bat Boy Nate, which kind of became a thing, and now this guy's kind of blown up a little bit. So get you caught up at that. So basically when the Yankees were at the Guardians, obviously like every visiting team, they get their own bat boy. But again, it's not really the Yankee bat boy. It's the opposing team's bat boy that they lend to the visiting team. And of course, he sticks out because he had long blonde hair, of course, a little bit of a mustache there. And Yankee announcer Michael Kay kind of pointed it out and kind of got on him a little bit for, hey, wait, why are you doing that? That's not the Yankee rules in terms of facial grooming. Of course, we all know the Yankees rules, no long hair, no beards or goatees. You could have a little bit of a mustache, but definitely no long blonde hair. But, I thought the whole thing was silly to even point it out. First of all, I don't blame the guy. I mean, look, he's the bad boy for every team that comes in visiting. Yeah, I understand it's not the Yankee rules, but what is he supposed to cut his hair just because the Yankees are in town? I mean, even though, we love our Yankees, it's just the Yankees will be there for 3 or 4 games and then gone. It's like, I'm not cutting my hair for this. And I don't even think it was a big deal. Why even point it out? I think the whole thing was stupid. Now, so I'm not sure if you know too much about this guy. He kind of has kind of that long-haired, hippie, hillbilly type of look there, so it doesn't look like a typical Yankee bat boy. But nevertheless, I just thought it was kind of a little bit of out of line for Kay to even mention it. Like, why? That's not even something I would notice because again, that's the visiting team's giving you that ball boy, and it's just for a couple of games. Like, that would have registered in my head. Now, it turns out this gentleman's name is Nate Rosenhaus. Now, it actually turned out to benefit him, and just goes to show, just when the Yankees are in town for a couple of days, what they could do for your career and lifestyle. He is a drummer for a band. It's called The Open Door. And, it's actually, elevated the band as well as elevated himself. So, again, it was a blessing in disguise for him to even do that. So, in a way, Kay actually kind of helped him. So what happened afterwards, basically, he Nate met up with Rizzo. Rizzo kind of suggested, hey, look, maybe tuck the blonde hair into the helmet a little bit so it doesn't stick out. And that's what he did after that, then kind of quieted things down a little bit. And Nate himself kind of thought it was kind of funny that everyone was making a big deal about it. But I guess him and Rizzo kind of hit it off a little bit. He gave Rizzo an Open Door band T-shirt, so Rizzo's kind of helping promote the band there, and hopefully it helps Nate whatever his career, whether he wants to continue with be a drummer with the band, and wherever they go, they go. But again, I just thought it was kind of just dumb for Kay to even point that out for the guy and blow this guy up on social media. Again, it helped him out, but maybe not everyone wants to be like that. No one wants that amount of attention. I mean, when you sign up to be a job for a ball boy in a major league ballpark, and you got cameras on you, especially when the Yankees come town, you kind of sign up for that to a degree. But what if you have some wacko online stalker now coming at you for some weird reason? So I just thought it was a bad move by Kay. But again, looks like ultimately it helped it out and helped out Nate. And again, hopefully it becomes an all-time great drummer. Who knows? Now with the Yankees 17 games into the season, off to a 10-7 record, which is okay. I mean, you expect a little bit better. Now they've kind of been, holding. They kind of been, I would say, on par. I mean, they've mostly been winning, taking 2 out of 3 each series. Now they tied 2-2 against the Twins series there, which was actually beneficial because they've lost the first 2. So you're at that point where you're thinking, oh my God, the Yankees are going to lose their first a series of the season, might even get swept, and then they came back thanks to the 2 good starts by Herman and Cole that kind of resurrect that. But for the most part, the Yankees have been well. But again, you're kind of overall expecting a little bit better than 10-7. So it's a situation where you can't really complain, but also the expectations were a little bit higher there. And again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that I think partly not having Severino and Rendon healthy, they are full to start the season, probably as you expected. Probably contributed to a little bit of that. But it'll cause you panic a little bit because you see through the first 16 games of the season, the Rays got off to a 16-0 start there, and you're like, oh my God, look, they got way ahead of us. And Rays with a little bounce back of the season with them. They were kind of a little bit on the outs. Last season was kind of the Yankees and Toronto neck and neck, a little bit for the AL East there, especially when the Yankees started to struggle in the second half of the season. Rays were kind of an afterthought. Looks like now in 2023, Rays back in full effect there, so that's just something the Yankees are going to have to contend with. Now, going to May, the Yankees will face the Rays 7 times head-to-head, so it'll give an opportunity for the Yankees to catch up there in the AL East standings. Again, it's so early in the season right now, you're not even looking at the standings right now. You just want to make sure the team gets rolling a little bit and healthy, and of course, losing Stanton is kind of a bit of a blow there. And now, the fact that Rendon's not coming back for a while, another big blow there for the Yankees. But nevertheless, the Rays off to a great start to the season. Well, how are they doing this? Well, at least through the first 16 games of the season, leading the major leagues in ERA as well as leading the major leagues in home runs. So if you're hitting home runs and you're kind of keeping the other team from scoring, you're going to win games. So pretty simple solution there for the Rays, and I think obviously they'll come back to earth again. They lost a couple games against Toronto there, so again, they are human, but again, off to a tremendous start, and they're probably going to be a team that the Yankees are going to contend to. Well, Toronto Blue Jays are off to a good start, them and the Yankees kind of neck and neck a little bit, so the AL East looking tough this season, and Boston and Baltimore kind of there a little bit, but again, for the Yankees, their competition is going to be mainly the Rays, Toronto as well, but mainly the Rays just because they're off to such a great start, and again, I think just because the Rays stumbled a little bit last season, I think they're going to be much better this season, so the Yankees are really going to have to grind out against them the rest of the way. And now these new rules not only cause more action on the base, but of course now we've seen much shorter games, which maybe a lot of fans are happy with. But kind of scary a little bit. Where we've seen some baseball games, just a little bit over 2 hours. That's not really baseball, but again, maybe as a fan you like that, just because hey, you get home quicker, you're not up as late. You're actually watching action versus looking at your mobile phone. Nevertheless, a lot more quicker baseball games, and you're seeing some franchises, supposedly like the Brewers and Texas Rangers, actually thinking about ending the beer sales, moving it from the 7th inning to the 8th inning. Just because the beer sales have been a little short because these games have been so quick. I don't know if that's a great idea, especially not a great idea in New York, so you will not see that in New York at all. So you'll still see your beer sales end at the 7th inning. Now, since we're here in the bottom of the 9th, the game's closed out, and we won. Thank you for watching.